Hello friends, accidents can happen even to the most advanced robotic systems, as this Ukrainian ground drone that got stuck in a rather exposed position can attest. Fortunately, one of its robotic colleagues was traveling along the same path and proceeded to give it the assistance it needed to get back to work and deliver the supplies that its human comrades need at the forward positions. Speaking of urgent deliveries, a Ukrainian fighter bomber sent a precision glide bomb against a command and control center that the invaders had carefully set up in an underground bunker. The munition managed to penetrate the cover to carry out a quick remodeling to improve the ventilation of the facilities. If you ask me, a second munition was needed for the other end of the command center, but at least there were plenty of laughs. The soldiers of the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade don't need anything too advanced to have a good day. They simply attach their fishing rod to one of their drones and go out to catch no less than 10 Mavic Z reconnaissance drones, tangling their propellers with their line, to which they've tied a weight to increase its effectiveness. With this bountiful, miraculous catch, the mountain troops of the 128th Brigade prevent the horde from freely conducting reconnaissance over the battlefield. Each downed Russian vulture means fewer eyes in the sky and more freedom of movement for the defenders, all using just a simple stick with a string. This is surprising, but not for the reason you think. The mosquitoes of the 414th Brigade are carrying out the deputinization of a Thor M2 anti-aircraft system belonging to the invaders on the Zaporizhia front, which was moving very recklessly in broad daylight. Up to now, just another normal workday. What surprises me is that Ivan still has operational anti-aircraft batteries on this front. These systems are like magnets for mosquitoes, and by now I expected to see them only inside Mordor, not in the more exposed parts of the front. Anyway, another one bites the dust. Ivan is getting more and more nervous, and one sign of that is the military simulation exercise that Russian general staff officers developed to explicitly recreate possible Ukrainian ground operations on the Crimean Peninsula. The exercise, called Crimea Awakening, brought together reserve officers and retired members of the Z Armed Forces to rehearse defensive responses against a blue force operating from the Odessa sector and the northwestern approaches of the Black Sea. According to information published by the Pro-Z mill blogger at Insider, the officers operating as the blue side focused on the use of hybrid warfare tactics, including extensive use of drones for reconnaissance and attacks, use of long-range precision weapons, advanced reconnaissance systems, and swarms of fast assault boats operating at high speed. Meanwhile, the officers of the red side took a reactive and defensive stance, as their mission was to protect key areas of the peninsula, such as Sevastopol, the north and east of Crimea, and the Kerch Strait. Military analysts interpret the exercise as a reflection of genuine concern among the invaders regarding the Ukrainians' ability to launch amphibious raids by special forces that could penetrate into Crimea, exploiting Russian units' limited mobility from fuel shortages. This does not mean that these raids could yet capture parts of the peninsula, but they could destroy or attack strategic targets of interest, such as bridges, airfields, or logistics depots. The 1st Azov Army Corps is preparing something, and they themselves warned us to prepare for Operation Hell. And to accompany their warning, they published a video in which a medium-range attack drone, Hornet, comes to greet the driver of an invader's locomotive, which is painted with the classic light blue color of Soviet trains. This could mean that this new campaign of attacks will focus on Ivan's railway transport networks. At the end of the video, the word "soon" appears, so the message is clear to me. The demilitarization of the Horde's trains is already underway. The operation focuses on a strategic weakness of the Horde, since the railway network, which still relies heavily on obsolete Soviet rolling stock, is very vulnerable and extremely difficult to replace. We'll probably start seeing steam locomotives on Mordor's tracks soon. Wait, they're already using them. This was undoubtedly all part of the old man's bunker plan. An African tourist, paid by the invading horde, has his first and probably last encounter with the loving local wildlife of warrior mosquitoes from the Ukrainian steppes, whom he tries to fool by showing off some of his traditional dances. But the truth is that the mosquito doesn't seem very interested in the cultural exchange offered by the traveler from the distant African lands. That's why he gets the Putin kiss, which the defenders have promised to give all illegal visitors. Let's see, wait. The invader had no pants on. Wow, I knew the Russians didn't care about their foreign volunteers, but not even giving them pants is just too much. A few days ago, two very interesting things happened regarding Belarus. The first happened on June 19th, when, through an ultimatum, President Zelensky demanded that Lukashenko deactivate the signal relay towers installed by the Russians on the border with Ukraine. And these were used by them to guide their waves of attack drones. Zelensky was clear and told him that if Lukashenko didn't comply within a week, the Ukrainians themselves would take care of the task using some attack drones. But it wasn't necessary to wait that long, because in just 3 days, all the towers had been dismantled by the Belarusians, which was confirmed by the electronic warfare units of the National Guard of Ukraine. And the effect was immediate, with a marked decrease in the activity of the horde's drones along the Belarusian border. Lukashenko may be a dictator, but he's not a complete fool, since he has skillfully avoided getting Belarus directly involved in the war, despite Russia's constant pressure over these 4 years. He doesn't do this just out of a pacifist spirit, but because he knows that if Belarus gets involved, it would mean the end of both Belarus and himself, since either it would be absorbed by Russia, or he would share its fate when Mordor is defeated. Obviously, this decision didn't sit well with his boss in the Kremlin, who summoned him to a meeting that turned into 3 days of closed-door negotiations. After that, Lukashenko didn't return to Minsk, but went directly to China to seek support, since it's the only country that can act as a political counterweight to Moscow and prevent Putin from continuing to try to force Belarus's participation in the war. Lukashenko seems to have realized that in a direct war against Ukraine, Belarus would be extremely vulnerable, since it doesn't have even a fraction of the defenders' capabilities. They could quickly take out its oil refineries and other vital facilities in just a few days. Changing the subject, on the logistics front, the armed forces of Ukraine received 10 NG high-wing light training aircraft. This was announced on June 25 by the Minister of Defense, Mikhailo Fedorov, announced Ukraine. 5 aircraft were provided directly by the Czech government through the European coalition to support Ukraine, and another 5 units were funded by fantastic Czech donors through the Darek Pro Putina Foundation, which literally means a gift for Putin. These modern 2-seat training aircraft are manufactured by the Czech company Direct Fly, and their design prioritizes great maneuverability, low maintenance costs, and excellent performance on short runways, which makes them ideal for initial and intermediate flight training. For cadets who need to develop their basic and advanced piloting skills, navigation, takeoff, and landing procedures, and instrument approach. This ability to train their new pilots within the country drastically reduces the cost of initial flight hours, optimizes the scarce resources of the Air Force, and reduces dependence on foreign training programs, which sometimes simply do not have enough slots for Ukrainian cadets. The Czechs once again score on the board with a great contribution to the cause. If you're interested in more content on the war in Ukraine, visit our 2 new channels for information in a different format. Don't forget to check them out. Remember to visit our Patreon, where for just $1 you'll have access to a large number of uncensored videos and documentaries. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Amen.